You are now listening to the Real Table Podcast with Michael Carter.
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Table Podcast. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you taking the time just to listen to this podcast. If you love movies, if you know other people that love movies, please share this podcast with other people. Share this podcast with other people. I want other people to hear about this podcast and tune in and listen and give their thoughts. And feel free, if you're watching the video, feel free to comment in the YouTube section of the videos. And don't forget to subscribe for, all the Real Table action, from hopefully more interviews in the new year and just more reactions on movies and news. So this was a good week. It was a big week for film, specifically talking about the new Superman trailer, which is huge. I'm pumped for that. Last night I saw Sonic 3, which was pretty good. I'm going to do an episode on that. But that Superman trailer, right? Mufasa also opens up this weekend, but low expectations for that. More excited for Sonic, but I'm more excited about this Superman trailer and everything that it did for me, right? I do think I've read some criticism. If you've seen the trailer, I've read some criticism on it, and I think some of it is 100% valid in a sense. I thought the trailer was really good. It articulated everything that it needs to articulate. It gave us everything that we need to see about what we're supposed to expect in this movie, right? One of the criticisms that I'm kind of taking in consideration, that some people think the trailer was just too much, in a sense of, you saw all these characters, you saw all these things, and if you're on the outside looking in and you're not in the know about the movie, does this trailer really tell you, oh, I want to go watch this movie, I want to buy into it, right? That's a point that I think that is very, very interesting about this trailer, that I've kind of been like, oh, yeah. I do have to be honest, though, like when I'm thinking about, you always want to compare it to the previous iteration of the character, but like thinking about Man of Steel, the Man of Steel teaser, to this day, it is one of the best teasers I've ever seen. For those that remember it, it was a teaser that did not give you very much on Superman, right? I think the only glimpse you saw was him flying at the end of the trailer. And then the music was it was Lord of the Rings. I can't remember what the score was, but it was from Lord of the Rings. But it was a beautiful teaser. It was exactly what you wanted to just feel when thinking about a movie like this. This one is a different vibe, right? But I think even with the different vibe, and even though I would pick the Man of Steel teaser over this one, is that the vibe feels like it really is trying to grab all the audiences, whether you grew up with the old Superman, whether you grew up with the Man of Steel, and even like the young, I think it's trying to grab all different demographics and trying to reel everybody in to come to this moment to witness another iteration of this character that feels like it's a mold and a mixture of obviously things that we've seen in the comics, but other iterations of the character. So I'm really looking forward to this movie. I think the criticism is good criticism. I think if you can criticize something, and you can find a problem with it, I think that's the point of cinema. That's the point of books. That's the point of anything. Like, we're supposed to find, I think, good criticism, right? And it doesn't mean this criticism, in my opinion, doesn't mean it's a bad trailer. There's some people that say it's a bad trailer, but then there's some people that say they are mixed on the trailer because they felt like it just gave you a lot, right? You don't know exactly what you're seeing in some of the facets. Like, you're seeing Lex Luthor, right? Like, you're seeing Lois Lane, you're seeing Clark Kent, you're seeing a Green Lantern, right? You're seeing some of these moments, but the story itself, right? That's not what we got from this teaser, and that's Again, in my opinion, excuse me, that's the point of a teaser. Like, you're not supposed to. I don't care. I don't even really know what the story is yet, but this is the first. This is the first look of this film that needs a home run win. It needs a win. If you've been following, like, my criticism, actually, this is so funny. Episode 1. This is a good plug. Go back to episode 1. I talked a little bit about The Flash and about how that movie, it endured a lot to get to the point that I was getting to. And it's, it was this movie that came out of a lot of mess. And James Gunn, when he took over DC, they still greenlit it and they still wanted to release it so they can get their money's worth. I don't think it flopped, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if it flopped or not. Either way, it was the end of the old era of DC that featured Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot. So go back and listen to episode 1. I just think that it's a funny little thing that I just noticed. Episode 1 of this whole podcast is where I talk about The Flash. And so now we're here in this moment, and DC just needs a win. And James Gunn, who's taking over a hot mess of a IP form of characters and stories, all that stuff that he's taken up, it's a hot mess, and he has to resurrect it. He has to get people to care. I saw a comment that said, why should people keep caring about general audiences? And the question is, the answer is that general audiences overall, they are the people that make movies money. The people that care to go, whether they're in the know or not, or it's mostly people that are not in the know, they are the ones that you have to convince to come see this movie, right? That's what it was always. That's how Marvel got popular. That's how Marvel grew its audience. It's not by the millions of people that grew up watching those old X-Men, Spider-Man cartoons, or read those comics. Like, no, it's the people that really wanted to be invested in these stories, because Marvel was like, hey, this is what we're offering. Come see this. We're building to something bigger with all these heroes that some of you, even if you've read comics before, but you weren't hooked on comics, but you read them before and you know these characters, we're building into a big movie and a big universe of all these characters. And so that's what Marvel did. And this is what DC needs to do. And this is the movie that it has to set the standard. I think it will, though. I think James Gunn is a fantastic creative, a fantastic director, producer, writer. I think he's going to do a good job. I think this is his biggest test, though. This isn't Guardians of the Galaxy, right? This isn't the Suicide Squad. This isn't Peacemaker. Superman is a different character. Different character calls for different vibes. We are going to really see how good of a director and how good of a writer James Gunn is. I believe in him, but I think this is his biggest test yet. Can he nail what I think now in society people don't deem as one of the most popular superheroes anymore? He was at one point, but Superman has lost his value. He has lost his popularity. Batman and Spider-Man, two of the most iconics right now. But yet Superman, who has been in the forefront of the DC universe, isn't as popular anymore. This is the movie that can make that, and that can change that and make it happen. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for DC to do something. James Gunn has stated that these movies, though, this next iteration of DC characters won't be building into the big event, right? I think eventually it will, but these movies aren't setup movies. So the Superman movie isn't setting up stuff like we're used to in Marvel movies. This is creating its own story in a bigger world. But I think this will pay off in the long run. Why? Because hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get Justice League the way it was meant to be done. And no disrespect to Zack Snyder and the work that he did and the things that happened to him along the way back then, but we are going to get the Justice League that we deserve. Right? to that era of the Justice League. What we got before was Zack Snyder's Justice League, in my opinion, was not the Justice League that I thought of when I thought about Justice League on the big screen. It wasn't that. And it wasn't bigger and better and amazing. It wasn't what it should have been, in my opinion. I think James Gunn, leading this creative side, getting the right people in the right places, we can get that Justice League movie. And not only that, we can get these stories that will catapult the DC universe. And some of these stories are better than Marvel stories if they nail this. There's lots of epic events that I would say are bigger than the Infinity War Endgame type things that could really catapult DC to the next level. So that's a whole other thing on its own. I would love to keep talking about that, but I'm sure we will as we get closer to July to see Superman, which I'm just deeply excited about. All right, let's keep it going.
He said Santa would have to fly faster than the speed of light to get to everyone's house in one night. He wasn't sure Santa was for real.
All aboard! You coming?
Where?
Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express.
Do you know what kind of train this is?
It's a magic train.
Are there any passengers in need of refreshment? We are on a very tight schedule. Hold on! Get us the blazes out of here! Brace yourselves! Stop the train! That is more like it. There is the North Pole.
Here! Here! Where?
Do not try that at home. Do not try that at home.
Just remember, the true spirit of Christmas lies in your heart.
The Polar Express, one of the most iconic Christmas movies of all time, in my opinion. Yet it is, I really didn't realize how many people don't like the Polar Express. There are people that love it. There are people that think it's straight up creepy. There's some people I know that think it's straight up creepy, and that's okay. That's okay. I think a lot of what the movie does for me is nostalgia. Growing up watching it, listening to the Believe song that Josh Groban sings, which is fantastic, and just hearing the iconic score. But, you know, the Polar Express, to me, still, it is like, if you think of Christmas, hope, joy, magic, like this is what this movie is. This is what it encompasses. It is joy. It has the hope. It has magic. And it makes you believe, right? And it makes you believe. Robert Zemeckis is the director. Robert Zemeckis he's known for so many movies, and he's known for working a lot with Tom Hanks. Let's see. Back to the Future. That's it. That was the Back to the Future trilogy. That's Robert Zemeckis. That's his thing. That's what catapulted him. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump. I think that's when he won the Academy Award for Best Picture and Best Director. Castaway, Flight, which is more newer with Denzel Washington. The Walk, that wasn't as big. Allied, which featured Brad Pitt. He did an iteration of The Christmas Carol, Beowulf, Welcome to Marwen. Like he's really known for some of these motion capture performance films. And so what motion capture is, this movie, it's an actor in a suit, and they put a bunch of dots over them, and they animate them, and they record their movements to put them into what we see in the movie. And so that's what the Polar Express is. A lot of motion capture within this film. But the movie encompasses magic, hope, joy, and the idea of believing, right? Seeing is believing in a sense, right? Obviously, stars Tom Hanks, who plays 6 roles. Tom Hanks plays 6 roles: the conductor, the hobo, Santa Claus, and Ebenezer Scrooge puppet. Interesting, right? And Tom is not the first actor to do that. I know more. Let's see, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy has done multiple roles. He's acted in multiple roles. I'm sure there's many other actors and actresses, but Eddie Murphy is the first one that comes to mind that he did it. The Nutty Professor, Norbit. I think there's another one that I can't think of. But yeah, Tom Hanks plays multiple. Tom Hanks did this. No, I'm thinking of Jim Carrey in The Christmas Carol. Wrong person. But yeah, Tom Hanks plays 6 roles. And yeah, the central theme of the movie is believing, right? And it's about this whole journey to the North Pole. We have our main character, Hero Boy, who does not have a name, which is also interesting about this movie. How vague it is about the names of these characters. But Hero Boy, who is the lead character, does not believe in Santa. I think at one point he definitely did. But he got to this, I feel like this age, and he just weirdly stopped believing. Right? And so this whole journey on the train just takes him on this wild ride to get him to believe in the idea of Santa Claus. Right? So a lot of the criticism for the movie is the character development, which that's slightly fair. You only know face value what you see about these people. You don't know enough. It doesn't go in detail. Like, these characters are just there. They just exist, right? Hero Boy, you meet him in his house. You know, he has a sister and he has 2 parents. And you also know that he does not really believe in Santa Claus, right? He's a questioner, right? You meet Hero Girl on the train. You don't know anything about her. You just know that she believes in Santa. She is 100% optimistic, and she is, not pessimistic like Hero Boy. And she is just this cheery girl that loves Christmas, right? Then you have, is it Billy? Yeah, Billy, aka the Lonely Boy. I didn't know he was known too as the Lonely Boy. And then you got Billy, who's just a sad, shy kid, who doesn't interact with the kids as much until the end half of the movie, which is, interesting. So, and then you got the conductor, and then you have the hobo who the Hero Boy meets on top of the train. So you have these different characters, but you don't have a deep, layered perspective on the characters. My defense on that is I think the movie wants you, Robert Zemeckis wants you to decide for yourself who these characters are underneath what we're given, right? The book, which is based off of a children's book, I don't know if people knew that. It is based off of a children's book. And the children's book is very, very vague. It's a children's book with pictures, and it just tells you beat by beat by beat by beat by beat what's happening. And it doesn't have, I don't think it has a lot of characters in it. I don't think the characters don't even have names, right? So, yes, a 1985 children's book. So interesting. So if from my knowledge and if I remember correctly, the book is just as vague as the movie. I think the movie actually gives you more. You have to, because of how flat the movie is. I mean, how flat the book is. You've got to give it more, right? More layers, more things within it. So that would be my defense with the character development and even the plot development. The plot is as simple as can be. These kids are on their way to the North Pole to see Santa Claus, but the whole idea of it is we're following this Hero Boy, and he just doesn't believe, right? Not a deep plot, not probably as deep as one could say they could go, but I think it does what it needs to do. I don't think the movie needs to have a lot going for it plot wise, right? It's I mean, when you get the book and you're realizing how simple it is, and if you think about adding other stuff the way the movie is now and adding a little bit too much, the movie can lag and just gets boring, right? That's just what I think, right? And also the animation. I've heard from some people the animation is scary, which is fair. The animation hasn't aged super well. The motion capture definitely looks like it was made in, what was it, 04? 04, yeah. It definitely looks like it. But I still love it. I'm a sucker for motion capture animation. You think about Avatar as one of the premier movies that has used motion captured and used it well, and to create the world of Pandora and create these characters. And it's one of those things where I'm just like, anything with motion captured, I am in on it. Right? I've always been always been fascinated about motion captured, and they use it for games too. For people that don't know, a lot of the video games nowadays use motion capture to create their characters and the cut scenes, and all that other stuff. So I love motion capture, even though this one is just a wee bit old. Right? Yep. Central theme is seeing is believing, and we see that a lot with Santa, with the ghost, aka the hobo, and the whole train. Like, all this stuff is just like I said about the Grinch, it's kind of absurd. It's kind of absurd that a train will show up in the middle of a street, picking kids up and taking them to go see Santa Claus. Sounds kind of wrong if you think about it. But even as insane as it is, that's the point of the movie, right? You're supposed to believe that these things are happening as going to see Santa Claus. So seeing is believing, and that's what Hero Boy he wrestles with a lot throughout this movie. But it's a fun ride. It's fun just to see it all, how it all comes together. So the conductor, who's played by Tom Hanks, is very very type A, very uptight, all about being on time. That's his thing. He wants to be on time. We need to get on time. We need to get to the North Pole, right? When Hero Boy wakes up, so as the movie starts, Hero Boy, he wakes up to jingling, and he instantly thinks it's Santa Claus, opens his door, and kind of creeps down the stairs, and instead it's his parents. One of them has a Santa hat, and he's like, "Oh, I've been fooled." And then we see him go look in his drawer for some newspaper clippings about Santa, some old photos that kind of basically sum up the idea of, like, yes, at one point I think he did believe, but then he started to kind of fact check the idea of Santa Claus. And so then eventually he goes to sleep, and then he's awoken by the train that is just traveling down his street. He wakes up, puts on his robe, goes downstairs, goes outside, and the conductor's saying, "All aboard, all aboard." And then Hero Boy, this is the first time we ever hear him speak, he said, "Where? To go where?" And then conductor says, "Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express." And Hero Boy is like, "Mm-mm." And he's like, "All right, suit yourself." And the train starts moving, and then Hero Boy runs to get on. The conductor he's all about time. We've got to get there. We've got to get to the North Pole. Even the scene where Hero Boy pulls the brake. He pulls the emergency brake to help the lonely boy get on Billy. And the conductor is just being uptight. He's like, "What's going on? We've got to be there on time." So it's a funny little character just to see how uptight he is. And honestly, we can't forget about the iconic scene itself. The hot chocolate scene. Hot chocolate. Again, seeing is believing. In a train, obviously we don't see every aspect of the train. But That's the magic of it all. These random people come out of nowhere and start pouring these hot chocolates, and they make tables, these invisible tables, these magic tables pop up, and they're sitting, they're eating they're sitting and drinking their hot chocolate, and it all just feels too good to believe, right? It feels too real. So it's just another aspect of the movie where I'm just like, Lord, it's all this stuff keeps happening, but I think that's the idea too, because we're looking at this perspective or this whole movie and this story from the perspective of the kids. The kids are just, they believe in Santa Claus, and so all these things are happening, and it's not that surprising. At least for Hero Boy, it is. For everybody else, they're like, I think there's a surprise, but there's not like everybody's like, well, this is crazy, this is absurd, how is this happening? Like no, like that's the point. You're not supposed to question everything. Believe that it's real, believe that it's true, right? So, and then the movie goes into all these different moments from the ticket. Hero Girl can't find her ticket and it flies away, but they end up finding it. Hero Boy walking on top of the train, and this is where he encounters the ghost, which again, it's insane that he's walking on top of a train, a moving train, and he encounters this ghost who feels kind of random. But I think the whole point of seeing is believing. I think this ghost is, he stays on this train, he exists on this train, and maybe his job, in a sense, is to get people, maybe not to get people to believe, but I feel like he connects well with the Hero Boy, because the Hero Boy is just very, he just doesn't believe. He's a doubter, right? And so I think the ghost kind of plunges him into these moments of believe the impossible, right? And yeah, like I said, the ghost feels kind of random. He feels random, but at the same time, I think he adds some sort of value to the whole belief system of this whole movie. It's like the most crazy things are happening right now. Yet it's funny. The conductor ends up mentioning on his first night on the shift, he's like, I almost fell, but something caught me. And the Hero Boy goes, wait. Was it a guy? Was it a person? And then he's like, I don't know. Conductor's like, I don't know. I just know the person caught me. And even at that point, the Hero Boy isn't fully believing it all yet. I think he's still wrestling with it. And so even as all these things happen, as all these things happen, the Hero Boy doesn't quite believe yet, right? He doesn't quite understand any of it. My favorite parts, beyond getting to the North Pole, I love the caribou scene, because it just seems it's just mindless. They run into the caribous, and the engineers the engineers are like, they didn't know what it was. They thought I think they thought they were hitting just something. It was something, there's a little light, and they thought they were going to hit something, and they were like, break, and they break just right, just to come up to some caribou, and they're not caribou. And it's just this weird moment that happens where I think it was the Hero Boy or the Hero Girl pulls on one of the engineers' beard, and he starts making this weird sound, and it's kind of connecting with the caribou. And then eventually the caribou move. Again, weird and wacky. But it is one of those moments where it's like, I don't know, you don't think too much about it. At least for me, because I'm like, I've grown up watching this movie. I don't think too much about how weird and how kind of like, okay, what is the point of this, right? I don't think too much about why this exists in this movie. And it's just like, oh, it is what it is. Because I think the whole point of the movie, seeing is believing. This feels very random. This feels very chaotic. But that's the whole point. Like, the kids are going to see who some of us, I hope, don't believe is real, is Santa Claus, right? So that's one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite parts of movies. I also love the roller coaster, the downhill roller coaster where they're still in the front, where the hero boy, hero girl, and the conductor are in the front, and they go on this wild, which I think they would have flown off if. Would they have? No, they most definitely would have flown off. I believe they would have flown off if they weren't. If this was real, they would have flown off of the train. But yeah, the North Pole. Love the North Pole. I think this is a cool aspect too, because you know, I think nowadays people have their different interpretations of what the North Pole looks like, and so it's always interesting to see. Okay, who do these creators and these writers and these visionaries think the North Pole looks like? And honestly, I think this might be one of the closest interpretations that I've seen. As the train arrives to the North Pole, they see all these little people walking in one direction. Obviously, they're going to the square to see the arrival of Santa Claus. Also, one of my favorite little parts is this little kid is yelling elves, and he points, and then all the kids run to the windows, and you just see the elves just walking, and they're small, and they have long noses, they have the ears. It's what you would think elves look like, right? And then you see this big old town square with the Christmas tree and everything. But hero boy, hero girl, and Billy all get lost, which I think was just also a fun kind of aspect to the movie. They get lost. One of the carts of the train ends up getting unlocked, and they end up going towards. Actually, not even towards anyone. They just go to another part of the North Pole, and they're running all around until they get to this one part of the North Pole where their train stops. And then they eventually just have to find their way and figure out where they're going. But here's another cool moment, and I think even with all, from the moment he gets in the train up until probably this moment, I don't think nothing really pivotal besides the tickets and maybe even the ghost has happened, right? Hero girl and Billy start to hear something. They start to hear something, which leads them to go, okay, we're gonna go this direction. We hear this. I hear this bell. Hero boy doesn't hear it, right? Now, as a kid, when I first watched it, I'm like, why doesn't he hear it? Why doesn't he hear it? Right? And they go, and as they walk, they keep getting closer to the sound. And we, the audience, also can't hear it, though. Right? We're looking from the perspective of Hero Boy, so we can't hear what they hear. And so it takes them all through Santa's little workshop. And as they're walking around, you see the doors are smaller, the sidewalks, everything about it is very, very small. That really encompasses the idea of elves are here, right? Elves live here. They walk these streets. They walk these sidewalks, which I thought was pretty cool. And I love how vast the North Pole looks and how Santa's workshop, which we see a little bit here and there, it's massive how it looks. It feels like it's the right move visually, right? It feels like everything feels right. So they keep following the sound. And then eventually, as they follow the sound, they end up in Santa's sack. Now, Santa's sack, like his gift sack, is huge, right? His bag of gifts is huge. It is like I love the way that this movie interprets the North Pole and Santa, that whole thing, is that they think large about this. Robert Zemeckis and the team think big about what the North Pole looks like, right? And so they're trapped in the Santa's gift bag, and it zips up, and there's this whole thing that carries it. There's this drone thing that carries it to the square where it will sit on the sleigh and everything. And eventually the kids get caught by the elves. They're like, hey, get out of here. Or whatever. And the conductor like, oh, of course, you three are at it again. Or especially Hero Boy. He's like, You pull the brake, you pull the brake once. Actually, you pull the brake twice, and now you're out here sneaking around in Santa's bag, and like, what are we doing? So they end up getting back to the square, and this large bag of gifts is just sitting on a sleigh, which is so cool. Then starts the arrival of Santa. The elves start singing. Santa Claus is coming to town, which feels slightly creepy the way that it does, the way that it happens. But I'm like, you know what? I'm all about it. I actually think it's hilarious. Me and my friend Jared, we laugh about it often. How funny that moment is. It's just something about it. It's just like, it's so creepy and weird, but it's funny. And then we finally get to see Santa Claus. This is the moment we've been waiting, right? And as we've been waiting for this moment happens, but we cannot see freaking Santa Claus. What the frick? We can't see Santa Claus, right? Again, we're looking at this from the perspective of Hero Boy, and I think it plays into it perfectly. And he's like, I can't see him. I can't see him. The kids see him. Most of the kids see him. He's like, I can't see him. I can't see him. I can't see him. And I love that it plays into this idea of you can't see him for a reason. We can see a little bit of glimpses. We can see that he's real. We see that he's walking, and all the elves are like, yeah. All the elves are excited and cheering. We see that he's walking, but we can't physically see all of who he is yet. And that's because Hero Boy, again, can't really comprehend. He can't even see. People are in his way. Elves are getting in his way, and he's trying to see, but he can't see because I think that's, that's about who he is. He doesn't believe in Santa. So also before then, I meant to say that before Santa comes out, the reindeer come out. And after the reindeer come out and they get put on Santa's sleigh, the bells on Santa's sleigh comes out. The bells are like a really huge factor in this movie, right? It's everything at this point. Up until, the whole movie, we weren't talking about bells. We weren't talking about any of that. But ever since we got into the North Pole, that has been that has been a reoccurring thing, right? The children are going to the North Pole. They're going to the sound. They're following the sound, but Hero Boy can't hear it, and he's just trying to listen and not even listen. He's just following the other two. And so now these bells are coming out. The elves are holding it and carrying it, and every time they there's a break, they sing this song. Dun, 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 dun. Every time they hit a break, they move the bells, and the bells jingle, and Hero Boy can't hear them. He's like, everybody is cheering, and like, woo, but he can't hear them. And that's, again, another recurring point about how he cannot believe. And then finally Santa comes out, and he can't see Santa, but then he sees the sleigh as the reindeer are cheering or getting excited because they see Santa, and one of the bells flies off and lands right in front of him. And it's just this moment that moves kind of in time, moves slow through time, and he picks it up and he starts shaking it. And he can't hear it. He can't hear it, and he's in it. He's like, what the heck? What the heck? And then he's in his mind. He's like, okay. And then he says out loud, I believe. And he says that pretty loud. But then he shakes it again, and this time he hears it. And he shakes it again, and he hears it. And then he looks at the bell, and then, as you can see on the bell, Santa walks up right behind him, and he turns around, and they have this really cool exchange about the bell and what it means for Christmas. And then Santa does this tradition. One kid gets the first gift for Christmas. Guess who gets the first gift of Christmas? My guy, Hero Boy, gets the first gift of Christmas. And I love it. I love it for him. And he gets the bell. He decided he wanted the bell. And he's like, all right, cool. And it's just a really cool moment And he says, "Hey, don't forget, the spirit of Christmas is not none of this stuff. It's what's in your heart." That's real stuff. That's 2 movies in a row. We got Cindy Lou Who out here spitting facts about what Christmas really means. And then we got Santa himself out here spitting facts. I love it. 2 back-to-back movies. I love it. Until your boy takes the bell, and then they watch Santa ride off in this big old fanfare, and then the kids, they get right back on the train to head home. But then all the kids are like, "We want to see the bell. We want to see the bell." Cool. He looks into his pocket, and the bell is gone. And they're like, "Oh, we lost it. We'll help you find it. Let's go." And then all the kids are like, "We'll help you find it." And then they're like, as they try to get off the train starts, and then like, "Oh, we're going home. That's right." And so it's like, "Oh, we're sorry." And Hero Boy he's pretty sad. He's pretty sad that he lost the bell, which was in the hole in his pocket, that was foreshadowed earlier on. But he has this hole in his night robe that he has on, and he has a hole in it, and that's the one that he put the bell in, and the bell just slipped right out. So pretty cool. Actually, no, that wasn't pretty cool. I don't know why I said pretty cool. My bad. I don't know why I said pretty cool. But they all go home. Billy goes home. He finds that Santa's been to his house with the gifts, all of that stuff. And then he finally goes home. And Santa hasn't arrived yet. And it's okay. So he goes upstairs, goes to bed. His sister wakes him up and says, "Santa's here. Santa came. And he comes downstairs and he sees all these gifts. And there's one more gift underneath the tree that said it's marked to him. Hero Boy, aka whoever his name is. And then he opens it, and it's the bell. And Santa wrote him a note talking about how he needs to get the hole in his pocket fixed. But then he said, "Hey, don't forget the spirit of Christmas is in your heart." And he rings the bell. He moves the bell by his ears, and he can hear it still. But then what's funny is his parents take the bell, and they're like, let me see it. And they try it, and they're like, "Oh, must be a broken bell." And then they give it right back to him, and that's just how the movie ends. And even though it's not as deep, not as beautifully layered as all these other Christmas movies are, this movie really encompasses the idea of what Christmas really is. The joy, the magic. Also the song, When Christmas Comes to Town. And then you got Believe by Josh Groban. The Polar Express is just a solid Christmas movie. And some people don't like it, and that's okay. But it is one of my favorite Christmas movies of the year, or not even just of the year, of all time. And I'll be watching it again before Christmas Day. You bet on it. Or I might watch it on Christmas Day. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. But the Polar Express it's always a good one. We love it. I think that's it for the day. Thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. I think we're gonna try to get a couple more Christmas movies in. We're gonna try to get the holiday in. We're gonna try to get the Christmas story in too. I'm gonna try to get those 2 in. Because of life's craziness, I might not be able to get to all of them, but we're gonna try. I really want to, but yeah, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure out at least one more. So just stay connected. This is why I say subscribe. Subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to Instagram. Subscribe. Twitter. Everywhere. Just subscribe and follow me, because I'll announce when these things are coming out, and you'll know when these things are coming out. Also follow on Spotify too. Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. And then you'll get to know when these episodes drop. You'll be the first to hear these things when you subscribe, right? Comment below too. What are your thoughts on the Polar Express? Is it creepy? Right? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Right? Also, let me know what your favorite Christmas movie is. This is probably my favorite Christmas movie. What's your favorite Christmas movie? And you can say why if you want to. Again, you don't have to if you don't want to. All right. I think that's going to be it today for the Real Table Podcast. We're going to do at least one more Christmas movie coming up, and then Sonic. I'm going to try to squeeze Sonic in here soon. That might be coming a little bit after Christmas, but that's okay. But if I don't, that might be coming a little bit after Christmas, so that's okay. Merry Christmas to all of you all. I'm going to talk to y'all real soon. Stay tuned for more episodes. We're not done with this Christmas stuff yet. And yeah, I love y'all. I appreciate the support and the love. Don't forget to share this podcast. And I'll talk to y'all real soon. Peace. Once again, thank y'all so much for joining me today on the Real Table Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and even comment. I want to hear your thoughts and I want to hear your opinions. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Real Table Pod and on Twitter at The Real Table. And don't forget to also check me out on therealtable.com for news, articles, and reviews. I will see y'all soon. Peace.